With the help of the ointment and waking leaves, Maya was able to walk on her own without the assistance of James. Worried that was a temporary thing, James kept close to her. While chewing on the leaf, Maya said, "I'll be okay. There's no need for you to be so close to me." She smiled, understanding that James was just concerned about her safety. Running a hand through his hair, James sighed. "I'll let you know if my ankle is starting to act up," Maya promised in an attempt to reassure him. "Okay." James raised a hand to let Maya know that he'd drop it. Though James moved away from Maya, he did keep a watch on how she walked. One thing he noticed was a slight limp, but James had to admit that he didn't know that Maya had been injured. It was possible that he wouldn't have noticed it. The question was how much of it was from the ointment and waking leaves, or just Maya's sheer determination of not wanting to be a burden. If she could hide it, I'm sure that Maya wouldn't tell anyone that she broke a bone while on a request, especially if she thought it would jeopardize the mission. James smirked and kept the thought to himself. Maya looked behind her at James. "I didn't say that out loud, did I?" James felt a little bit of sweat drip down. It only helped to further his thoughts that women were scary with how they could sense what men were thinking about. The two of them stayed silent as they walked on the game trail even after several hours had passed. James would occasionally talk to Chad to keep them included in what was happening, while Maya mainly stayed silent. Seeing Maya not as engaged with the stream made James suspect that she was trying to not reveal that she was in distress. Though her walking was still somewhat natural and she wasn't sweating excessively from being in pain. There would be a few times when Chad wanted to get attention from her, where Maya would interact with them, but it was evident that she wanted to be left alone. It was fortunate that Chad was understanding of their situation, hence they weren't unreasonable in trying to get Maya to talk. While they had been walking, James caught sight of deer that were grazing on the grass. Seeing that there were deer and wildlife in general improved his mood. The lack of animals only heightened his dread that they were in danger of the rock bear. But the fact that deer were roaming about gave the sense that the forest was returning to normal. Maya had also turned her head to look at the wildlife. She flashed a smile at James. "Maybe we'll be able to sleep? At least catch a few hours?" James couldn't help but smile at Maya's optimism. If they had to continue through the forest for as long as needed to get out, it was understandable how Maya found the idea of sleep enjoyable. Just because the waking leaves will allow us to stay awake for as long as necessary, it doesn't mean that this is a healthy option, James thought to himself. At some point, their bodies would begin to show detrimental reactions to taking the waking leaves for as long as they'll need to. They'll likely feel like the Walking Dead after enough time has passed, where their brains would be alert but sleeping at the same time. He had heard people who tried to test the limits of the waking leaves and the horrific experience they went through. Movement attracted his eyes to see the deers that were peacefully grazing flee away from them. "What is it?" Maya also saw the deer escaping from their immediate surroundings. At the same time, Maya grabbed her bow and held it in her hand at the ready. Her other hand was grabbing an arrow.